Hey guys, Sonic Smash Bros. Here, and while we wait for the second stage of the KC Cup to actually get underway, I did promise I'd do a full review on Yusei's relevant skills, and basically his skill history throughout Duel Links in general. So, why don't we get this started, shall we? Because it's honestly been a long time coming. Now, believe it or not, Yusei, way back when he first dropped, if the servers wanted to load, wasn't exactly good. He really wasn't. Like, you see all this? This is basically all the stuff he had back then, minus Majestic Light. I mean, sure, we had Mark of the Dragon Head, we had Attack Booster Synchro Warriors, like, this was his best unique skill, put it to you that way. And, while fun, not very good at all. To where his best skill, also Mark of the Dragon Head did not used to give you Shooting Star Dragon and Formula Synchron, they do now. His best skill back then was the Tyvet Binds or Life Boost Alpha. You see the problem there? He was basically using generic stuff because his own deck wasn't functional. Put it to you this way, I ran Dragonity on him back in the day just so I could play Stardust Dragon. Now, he did gain a unique skill, Majestic Light, as I mentioned a second ago, that was made during the Darksider Kallen / Darksider Kiryu event with the Earthbound Immortal Kokapakapu raid. And while this was cool, and Jack also would later get this with Darksider Carly, by the way, it wasn't much. It really isn't anything because Majestic Star Dragon and Majestic Red Dragon are terribly inconsistent at the absolute best. So the only thing this skill ever ended up being used for, if you chose to go this route, was Orchest. That's it. But all of that would change with the Primo / Placido raid event when we finally got Shooting Star Dragon, and on top of this, the skill Shooting Star Road. Now, this skill did not used to put Turbo Synchron, Nitro Synchron, and Hyper Synchron on top of the deck from outside of the deck when you played the Formula Synchron. So, we had to run a lot of tuners. We still kind of do. Don't get me wrong, we still very much do, in fact. We also didn't have much in the way of extra deck space, and we also auto-lost to a couple of matchups without specific stuff. For instance, we absolutely were required to play Crystron Amatrix to run over Lunalight Saber Dancer or Meteor Black Comet Dragon. We also had matchups like with Dolce and Infernoid running around, where our Junk Converter could just be straight up removed from the graveyard before we ever got a chance to use it. Which is why we played cards like these. Specifically, we ran Junk Changer to make it level 4. This was also kind of a funny out to Dark Requiem and freaking Galaxy Ice Photon Lord because nobody knew how those worked. Nobody knew that Junk Servant was coming, and well, there you go. Free Stardust Dragon without relying on the graveyard even once. So we had a couple of things, also like Junk Forward, Junk Anchor, maybe Tuning Gum in there once in a while. But this skill only would proceed to get stronger even after we got the next skill we'll be talking about. Because eventually Yugo was added to the game, so we got Speedroid stuff. Eventually we got Cyrus Synchron because of Tachyon of Galaxy. Granted, that'd be the last time I would ever talk about Shooting Star Synchron. And we also got Hogoida as well, High Speed Raid Hogoida. But also, on top of this, as of now, we also have Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, so we have another recovery play. As far as I'm concerned at this point in time, this is the maximum power of Shooting Star Road. Now, let's do a couple of test hands with this to see if we can get the big combo. Okay, we got something rather than nothing. We got the Junk Synchron at least. That's at least a way to go into Stardust without relying on the graveyard, so we don't lose the DD Crow automatically. That gets our stuff in graveyard. That's a brick. I got it first try last time I tried to record this before, audio hiccups happened. I know that for a fact. And there we go. Junk Synchron and Card Turbo. That would lead to Crystal Wing, Stardust Dragon formula, and then we just go from there. But now, since we can also play Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, I did always play a second Stardust Dragon for this, but yes, I did Chronicle this, as you can see here. Granted, it doesn't look nearly as good as this, but Aurora looks pretty nice on this thing, wouldn't you say? Anyway, as far as I'm concerned, this is the maximum power this skill can have at this point. There's no way this is getting any stronger. And, honestly, I'm happy with how it ended up. Like, this is definitely worthy of being considered a solid 7 out of 10 skill. Good solid design, good solid deck restrictions, just enough room for you to have a few tech cards in there, or just generic synchro boss monsters like Crystal Wing, Hugawada, whatnot. This is just good. Of course, nowadays it's irrelevant, it's unviable, it's been power crept way too heavily. And we're going to get into that elephant in the room later. Because for a while, after the Zone Raid event, this became our best skill. A bond illuminates the future. For those wondering, Jack also got counterparts to this. Demon's Resonance for shooting Star Road parallels, and for parallels to A Bond Illuminates, Roaring Soul. So, Bond Illuminates had a ton of ways to be played, a ton of different combos, a ton of ways to get out the Signer Dragons and whatnot. It was truly an anime skill referencing Yusei at his absolute peak. So, we have the Jet and Doppel combo line as I'm showing here. I've shown it many times on the channel, in fact. We have the Jet into Synchron Explorer into one-card combo into Ravenous Crocker Dragon Arcephus with Tatsunoko. We just had so much good stuff going for us with this. To the point where, back when this skill first dropped, Jet Synchron and Tuning went on the ban list at Limit 3, which hurt, but we could still play around that to some extent. It was just a lot harder. Now, granted, Tatsunoko would eventually get moved to Limit 3. It was originally Limited 1, along with the Jet and Tuning, so that was annoying as well, but what can you do? We didn't have Crystal Wing yet, so who cares? But, on top of all of this, eventually Tatsunoko would go to 3. And that ended up nerfing the Jet and Doppel combo, so we ended up having to go to Mono Synchron, Synchron Carrier, and ending on Crystal Wing and Stardust Warrior, only bringing out Quasar to secure games. Which, it was good, don't get me wrong, for its time it was good, but I don't know, it was definitely the weakest that Bond Illuminates had ever been at the time. Eventually, however, Tuning came off the ban list, and it was on site. We were back, we were better than ever. And honestly, I'm just happy with how this skill ended up at the time. Now, granted, we have even more power now because of, Excel Synchro Stardust. Now we can do Excel Synchro Stardust with Formula and Crystal Wing, so we can tribute Excel Synchro Stardust, bring out Stardust Dragon, Synchro off Crystal Wing and Formula into Stardust Warrior, and then from there bring back the Crystal Wing with Synchro Chase. So we have Destruction Protection, we have Special Summon Negate, and 2 Monster Negates with 1 Crystal Wing. We have plenty of other combos, too. Oh, we actually got that one first try. How about that? So, technically, we also have Junk here, so we can do, Synchron Carrier with the Jet and Junk combo and do Crystal Wing and Excel Synchro Stardust. Actually, would that even work? Would Excel Synchro Stardust even be worth it in hindsight? I'm just realizing this. Oops. But still, Stardust Crystal Wing was still okay for its time. Nowadays, it's not so much, but what can you do? Now, after a while, I did have to drop this. I did eventually just commit to dropping this because it just wasn't able to keep up anymore. Dragonic Contact was a thing, Predaflance were a thing, Lyrilusc was a thing, and they all still are a thing. Solid Mangrades now also still just a massive thing. And these 4, I would say Dino in general especially, because just Dino needs to go. If it's ever potentially relevant, it's a problem. These all gatekeep everything else from seeing serious play. And Synchron felt that the hardest for the longest time. It just lost too many matchups without seeing Jet and Doppel. Other combo lines just weren't cutting it to where we were seeing the Mech Knight engine. We were seeing a bunch of different engines for this, really. Or Sartic was even using this skill. And it just wasn't paying off. The skill is definitely great. Definitely a 9 out of 10 at the very least, compared to the Shooting Star Road 7. But it aged. It absolutely aged. Now, fast forward to almost exactly a year ago. We get the Striker expansion main box. We get, you know, Antenname's new skill, Limiter Removal Regulator Open, and that was incredible. And then there's Yusei, who got... What even is this? Shooting Star Road Tech Genus expansion. Now, this skill, I appreciate the idea of. I will say this, setting Starlight Junction to your field zone from your deck and sending Junk Converter from deck to grave before you draw for the start of a duel means you could technically have an 18 card deck if you wanted, so there's some consistency to be had there. But that's where the positives kind of end. You were locked to special summoning Junk and Synchron monsters, and Light or Wind Synchron monsters with 2,500, 3,300, or 4,000 attack points exactly. Any more or less, and you wouldn't be able to use them. That led to a huge problem. We couldn't play Crystal Wing, we couldn't play Stardust Warrior, we couldn't play Stardust Chronicle Spark Dragon, you know, some of Yusei's actual manga cards. And then on top of this, to get the Formula Synchron or Tech Genus Recipro Dragonfly, the only monster we are allowed to control is Stardust Dragon or a level 10 Synchro monster. I think you see a huge problem there. So originally we were running Junk Destroyer because, you know, we had no choice. But with the extra deck slot, we ran Clearwing Synchro Dragon. Since then, we took both of those out for Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon and a second Stardust Dragon to have a recovery play and a follow-up play into another big boss monster. It doesn't change that this skill is absolutely terrible. To this day, I still don't know how best to optimize it. Like, there's no optimizing to be done here. The skill is just that bad. Much like the old Shooting Star Road, it's too reliant on seeing Junk Synchron, but even more so here. Okay, so that is actually the full combo. Jet and Mono is Quasar on opponent's turn, Starlight Junction, field spell to bounce a card back. And that's still not even good. But that's the best we have, put it to you that way. Okay, that doesn't count because you normally would never see the Junk Converter. That's full combo. That's at least going into Tech Genus expansion on opponent's turn. That's okay, I guess, but nothing great. That doesn't count because, again, those get set. Pretty basic stuff. Doesn't count. Doesn't count. That is full. Doesn't count. That's just horrendous. I've never seen that actually happen, thankfully. That's at least something. That's at least something. Thank you, Rhoda. That's full combo if it counted, but it doesn't. That's just a brick. That's at least something rather than nothing, but doesn't count anyway. That works, believe it or not. And there we go, another full combo. Another full combo. You get the point. But the combo is so one-note. It's so linear to the point where it just wasn't worth it. Even back when the skill first came out, there were some matchups where you just lost on the coin toss. And I mean, you genuinely just automatically lost in the coin toss. Like, Red Eyes Zombie Synchro, Blue Eyes in particular, because, you know, Dragon Spirit of Light number 68 pretty much locked you out of playing the game. To the point where we had to play hand traps. And don't get me wrong, some of these were good. We had to run Valor and DD Crow, for example, but that was the only way we could have this skill be even somewhat relevant. It did have its time of relevance, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to discredit that. But the skill was terrible. Face the facts, guys. This skill was a failure on release. It's a 3 out of 10 skill, no higher than that, because let's be real here, it had a couple of good things, but that's where the positives end. But now, we go from absolute failure to absolute success. Stardust Acceleration. I've gushed about this skill so much during the profile. there's a reason for it. The cost of returning card from hand to deck is actually a benefit, especially when you're sending this guy back, because he's meant to be a speeder garnet for Junk Speeder, but, well, Junk Speeder isn't here, so we run Chevalier de Fleur as an overtake target. The end boards we get are varied depending on the situation and the matchup we really want to be going into. Like, Predaplants, as I saw by accident, once, because I misplayed like a fool, I could go into that, get Crystal Wing on board unaffected, and also go into Shooting Star Dragon right after. Granted, that doesn't matter, because if they wait for the Predator counter, they can just go Drosophilum Hydra, and you're screwed anyway. Terrible skill design 101, folks. But even then, we could do unaffected Crystal Wing into Dragonic Contact. We could do a good number of stuff, actually. Unaffected Quasar, Crystal Wing on unaffected Stardust Warrior. With the Dawnwalkers, we can do Crystal Wing on unaffected Quasar. But even so, there's a lot of ways we can play this out. And going second, we still have options, because we maxed out on back row removal, well, as much as we could. We have a couple of Eclipses for interactions. And on top of all of that, we got hand traps, we got freaking Mistworm as a synchro for board breaking. We have some good stuff here. We have a lot of great stuff here. We're just missing the Junk Speeder, but the skill itself is amazing. I'm going to show a couple more replays from D-Level Max when I was screwing around, just to kind of prove a point. And once again, to prove that my record against Red Dragon Archfiend is still surprisingly good for no reason.
Witness the Jack. Yusei. Duel. Don't expect.
So Crimson Gaia grabs Soul. Scarlight, set 1 pass turn, but that gets removed by Cosmic. Lamau, lol even. So I search for the Jet here, right? He lets the wheel effect go off, but I saw a prompt. So I end up opting to go for Junk Synchron here, because I know about the Veiler. Yeah, that was your first and your worst mistake.
Here's my tuner monster Jet. Drive the wind and rain with your sacred wings. Stardust charge. Jet Synchron's effect. From my hand.
Yeah, let's get that Crimson Gaia out of here.
From my hand.
And overtake. Do not underestimate Synchro overtake. Do not underestimate Fleur Synchron. I think you see the combo line here. I think you see where I'm going with this. Because at this point, this is game, and I know it's game. So I bring out Stardust Dragon purely to style. I'm going for maximum style points here, folks. Because Fleur's Graveyard effect comes up here. Yeah, if you can't tell, that was about to be Quasar. Yeah, GG, easy, no re. As for the other replay, yeah, it said nice each, and he didn't send a nice when I freaking mopped the floor with him. Just goes to show people are only playing Red Dragon Archfiend now just to be carried by it, but granted the modern support is just really good cards in general, so it makes sense why people are playing this a lot. The cards themselves are just really freaking busted. They're everything he needed, seriously. So Soul, starts tuning him. I figured he already had Bone in hand. Wouldn't you know it, I was right. Veiler the Bone just so he doesn't get freaking Vision into the graveyard, and well, he had it anyway. So Crimson Gaia going to Abyss, search the Fiendish Golem. So realistically, this isn't a terrible end board.
It's go time. I draw from my hand. Hot Red Dragon Archfiend from my hand. Activate.
Yeah, go right ahead, buddy. I don't care.
A duelist from my hand.
So this is quite the situation, to say the least.
A duelist. I activate my monster's effect.
So you may be wondering why I'm going about it this way. There is a reason.
Tuner monster junks Synchron's effect. I know what to do. Even the tiniest scrap has value.
Junk Warrior.
Junk Warrior.
And we're going as anime as possible here. Well, as final episode anime as possible, even. Minus, you know, the Mistworm being here.
Stardust charge at Synchron's effect. The tuner monster junks Synchron's effect.
Bring back Speed Warrior for the
Bring on in,
memes.
Speed Warrior. I activate my monster's effect. I know what to do. I synchro summon a monster. I activate my monster.
And 1, 2, 3, goodbye. Clear path to ball.
Jump Warrior. So Jack.
And there we go. So as you can see, Stardust Acceleration is extremely versatile. The costs are actually benefits for us because, you know, we either unbrick or we also get On Your Mark off the field or another card into the graveyard that we might want to have in there instead for different kinds of end boards depending on the matchups we run into. We still do struggle with Predaplants and more often than not lose to Draconic Contact. Lyrilusk is a pain because if we don't draw the Eclipse going second or we don't just stop the Nightingale from coming out altogether, we're just done. But everything else is just solid. It's really solid. This skill is basically perfect. We have interactions, we have room for interactions, we have room for board breaks, we have room for board breakers in the extra deck going second. We have plenty of ways to combo off, plenty of ways to play through hand traps. Well, more often than not anyway. We're just missing Junk Speeder. And this is perfect. In all honesty, I want to give this skill a perfect 10. There's no other way I can say it. This is straight up the best skill Yusei has ever had. And I can only imagine if we get another one in the future, although I don't think we will for a long time, it's only going to go up from here. Stardust Acceleration is so good. Now, you might argue I just got really bad players. That's also a possibility, don't get me wrong. But yeah, this skill is just great. Like, let's see if I can get another sample draw in here, just see if I can get another combo going. Well, there you go. Combo, way to scout for hand traps, so we just have a way to play at all times. And we have a potential double back row, potentially a triple interaction, you know, 2 Cosmics and a Valor, or an Eclipse, or a Lance. Or the 3rd Cosmic if I get really unlucky. That's happened to me so many times. And I just gotta say, this is the kind of skill we needed for so long. Consistency improvements, a good extra deck, good follow-up plays, good versatility for whatever situation we might need. The only thing we're missing is Junk Speeder to heighten our inboard ceiling, because we can do crystalling unaffected Quasar just off of seeing any Synchron. At that point, we're going to be really good. But other than that, that's really just kind of all I have to say about this skill. Like, one more time on the rundown. Shooting Star Road, 7. Very solid, very fun, and it only got stronger over time, but eventually did get power crept out of the game. Bond Illuminates, 8 or a 9, somewhere around that range. Again, plenty of ways to make use of it. Scales of those effects. The Signer Dragons were actually useful for something when they came up from time to time. The end boards were really good. The versatility was pretty good. It just couldn't keep up anymore once we got stuff like Lyrilusk in the game. And also arguably Tachyon back in the day as well. But when that got nerfed, we were back to at least being playable again. So what do I know? Tech Genius expansion, even on release, was a failure. A couple of interesting things, like being able to potentially start with an 18-card deck. So 3 out of 10 there, but that's about it. And Stardust Acceleration is just the perfect Synchron skill. It's what we needed. It's just straight up what we needed. Now, granted, it can still get stronger. We need Young Sweeter for that, though. But other than that, I can't give this any less than a perfect 10. In this case, the skill is not at fault. It's us lacking a critical card. That's it. So, that's pretty much the in-depth review for Yusei's skills. Hopefully you guys at least enjoyed what I had to say about all of this, and hopefully you guys got some insight what I had to say about all of this. I'm not going to be able to show all the end boards that I could do, because we'd be here for way too long as it is, and this video is already getting pretty long as it is, for just a simple review. But, Yusei, finally a solid character, and man, considering the road it took for him to get here, the shooting star road it took for him to get here, if you will, it's been a crazy ride, and I'm looking forward to seeing where things go from here. So, until the next video, whatever it might be, later guys.